Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, and today I'll be reading a multi-character listener by me. So let's get into it. Raiden. Raiden was not usually very open about showing affection. Not that she cared much about people's opinion of her. She's done far worse things. She cares about the people of Inazuma, of course, but not to the point where she would care what they think of her relationships. That is her own thing. But being caught making out with you was not in her plans at all. There is a reason she never actually did anything with you in public. And right now, as you sat on her lap and she kissed you, you knew exactly why she never made anything public. You were blushing brightly, your arms wrapped around her neck, pulling her closer and closer. But then, before you knew it, there was the sound of the door opening. And Yai Miko, she stood there and chuckled to herself. Oh, I can't believe what you're doing, eh? Seriously. I know we're in Tenshikaku, but couldn't you do it in your own room? Well, I had no reason to expect you would show up, she said, not ashamed at all, kissing you again, while you were bright red in the face. Mika could not help but keep laughing before she left and went away. She wouldn't say anything to anyone. There was a reason that A trusted her most besides you. But it was rather a shameful experience, even if just for you alone, since Raiden did not seem to be that affected and continued on with her business, pulling you closer and closer, as she could not be bothered by this at all. Furina. Furina would be very shy about being caught doing something like that. She didn't want people talking about her and you. She didn't want people caring about what she does anymore. She did like being a star. She just didn't want the unnecessary attention that came with it. The attention that sometimes made her a little bit too anxious. And she hoped she could avoid it one day. The thing is, it was not as easy as it should be. And that meant, if she were ever to be caught, then surely everybody would know. Unless she was caught by a certain person. And because she was so lucky, it just so happened to be him. Let's say if you were on a picnic, and as you pulled her closer into your arms, kissing her sweetly, she found herself blushing, but melting into your arms nonetheless. Furina was very shy about this. She had never indulged herself in any kind of romantic relationships, so, beside her novels, she had no other experience with this. And that's why she was very nervous and very, very embarrassed about all of this. And as she closed her eyes, melting further against you, she heard the sound of a man clearing his throat. Lady Furina, I mean Miss Furina, please, try to be more discreet next time. I'm glad it was me who saw this. Otherwise, it might have been someone else and the media would know. Nicolette said, and she blushed brightly, stammering over her words, before finally regaining her composure, thanking him, but the look on her face after he left, it was priceless, and too ashamed. It would be entertaining if you were not blushing as well. Zhongli. He wasn't nervous about anyone seeing the two of you, especially since most people only knew him as a consultant, but some old friends knew about him being Morax and all. Not that you would ever be ashamed of being found out doing this, but it made for a rather awkward and interesting situation. The two of you were out very late at night. There was supposedly no one around, so no one could have seen this, except you were not as lucky as you'd hoped to be. And there was a certain lady that had witnessed the two of you, and all she did was cough, and there was a slight red tint to her cheeks. Rex Lapis, can you at least have a modicum of decorum? He immediately pulled away, looking at her, and he was stunned by that response that she actually made to what the two of you were doing. But he was more stunned at being caught, really, and he was even blushing a little bit before chuckling. I do. I certainly did not expect to be caught. You could have at least let me continue. Oh, goodness. What if a child sees this? You should do this where no one can see. It is rather embarrassing, she said, although she was the one blushing more than him. She certainly was not used to seeing such things, and she was flustered. Meanwhile, he was amused by the entire situation. So after she left, he just chuckled, carried you in his arms, and to his credit, he did find a more secluded area. Venti. Now, Venti was actually not shy at all about displays of affection. People in Mondstadt were not at all weird about this thing, and neither was he, despite not being very experienced at this thing that they call love. But he loved you, and he was adventurous by nature. So that meant that he was going to do his absolute best to make sure the two of you get what you need and everything. And right now, that also meant that he was going to kiss you. Maybe in a place that was not so secluded. He never really saw a reason to be so secretive. But he failed to maybe notice that someone would actually see you. He never really thought that the two of you would be in such a place to be caught. But pulling you closer as he kissed you, putting his hands in your hair, he felt like the world revolved around you, like he couldn't breathe without you, and it was getting harder and harder to control himself, all until a certain voice had stopped him. Venti, would you please go out of my bar if you're going to do this? He was rather stunned by all of this, blushing as he looked back. Well, we are on the second floor, Master DeLuke. I'm sure you don't mind. Well, I do, and it's only for wine's sake that I'm not kicking you out this instant. Now get your shit together, Venti, he said, before leaving you two. And it was safe to say that you were red as a tomato. Meanwhile, Venti was doing his best to keep himself from giggling. He really could not care less.